Have you ever watched a show, gotten completely invested in its world and its characters, only for it to vanish? Stargate Universe fans, this video is for you. What the heck happened to it? And why did this brilliant ship never get to finish its journey? Let's find that out. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The promise and premise of Stargate Universe. So Stargate Universe, or SGU for short, was designed to be its very own thing within the live-action Stargate world. The idea was to take the franchise in a completely fresh direction. Even though it was trying new stuff, it still kept its roots firmly planted in all the existing Stargate stories we knew. The two main guys behind it, Brad Wright and Robert C. Cooper, had been running the Stargate show for a long time. About 12 years, actually. They felt like they had pretty much told every kind of story they could with the old Stargate style after 15 seasons, and they were really struggling to come up with fresh and exciting ideas in the writer's room. Basically, they believed the whole Stargate franchise needed a big change to survive and stay interesting. The main plot centered on a group of people who found themselves stranded incredibly far from Earth aboard an ancient ship called Destiny. This vessel had been flying through the universe all by itself for millions of years. What happened was, a bunch of civilians and military guys had to make a quick escape through a Stargate after their base, Icarus, came under attack. They accidentally ended up on Destiny after they finally figured out what the mysterious 9th chevron on a Stargate was for. Once they were on the ship, they couldn't dial back to Earth like usual. They were stuck following Destiny's pre-programmed path across countless galaxies. This whole concept was a noticeable shift from Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. Those older shows usually featured teams of highly skilled experts going on episodic adventures through the Stargate, checking out new planets and fighting big, recognizable bad guys like the Goa'uld or the Wraith. But SGU went for something more realistic and put a strong focus on the characters and their personal struggles. Just a random collection of people who had to learn to survive in an incredibly harsh environment. They were constantly running low on food and water, and the ship's shields and life support systems were always on the verge of failing. As a result, there were naturally many internal conflicts among the survivors, such as the disagreements between Camille Ray's more human-centered ideas, Dr. Rush's scientific methods, and Colonel Young's military mindset. Brad Wright and Robert C. Cooper's goal was to appeal to both longtime Stargate fans and people who had never seen the franchise before. Although the writers tried to wrap up individual character plots within each episode, the main continuous story was mostly driven by how the characters grew and changed throughout their journey. Launch, production, and initial reception. The creators wanted SGU to stand on its own, not just be a direct spin-off like Stargate Atlantis was from SG-1. Initially, they planned to write the first episode of SGU in the summer of 2007, hoping for a 2008 launch. They'd often felt limited by small budgets on previous Stargate shows, which sometimes made things look a bit silly. So, they pitched SGU to Sci-Fi in late 2007 as a really expensive series. The idea was well received, but the project got put on hold because they were still busy with Stargate Atlantis and a movie called Stargate Continuum. Plus, there was that writer's strike happening. Finally, on August 22, 2008, Sci-Fi officially gave SGU the green light for a 2009 debut, right after they announced Stargate Atlantis was ending. They ordered 40 episodes over 2 seasons. Producer Joseph Malazzi mentioned that a new show would cost less in salaries and licensing fees than a 6th season of Atlantis would have. MGM also helped with funding, and actor Robert Carlyle said each episode had a budget of about $2 million US. Brad Wright laid out the series and its first few episodes to the Stargate Atlantis writers and producers in 2008. Some writers from Stargate Atlantis, like Martin Gero and Alan McCullough, wrote scripts, but they weren't part of the regular writing team. Author John Scalzi was brought on as a creative consultant, doing more of a background job. Most of the people from Stargate Atlantis, like some stunt coordinators and composers, moved over to SGU. The writers started putting together stories for the first season in mid-November 2008. The U.S. Air Force and Marine Corps even reviewed the scripts, and a disaster geophysicist named Mika McKinnon acted as a science consultant. Filming for Stargate Universe was originally supposed to start on February 4th, 2009, but it got pushed back to February 18th, 2009. Before it premiered, Sci-Fi Wire released some cool concept art of the Destiny in October 2008. The first official photo of the cast, not in costume, came out on March 20th, 2009. That same day, Sci-Fi started airing 30-second trailers, showing various clips of the team on the ship and the Stargate with its first visual effects. MGM launched a redesigned Stargate Universe website on July 8th, featuring an interactive tour of the Destiny, interviews with the cast, character profiles, and videos. Joseph Malazzi then started sharing concept art and behind-the-scenes photos from the SGU set on his blog. Brad Wright, Robert C. Cooper, and most of the main cast showed up for an SGU panel at San Diego Comic-Con on July 24, 2009. They also filmed behind-the-scenes footage for future online content and DVDs. Now, although SGU struggled to win over some of the loyal Stargate fans and keep its strong ratings from the first half of Season 1, it hit its stride creatively in its second season. It felt like it was going to become a huge hit in Season 3, much like Stargate SG-1 did years earlier. But despite the producers being pretty hopeful for a renewal, Sci-Fi decided to cancel Stargate Universe in December 2010. The official reasons were low ratings and high production costs, but it might have also had to do with the network changing its brand strategy, and MGM having financial trouble that led to bankruptcy that same year. The Network Gambit, Sci-Fi's changing identity. SGU started with average viewership numbers and never managed to improve much during its 2 seasons. Plus, the Sci-Fi Channel had just rebranded to Sci-Fi in 2009 and started focusing more on shows like Warehouse 13, Haven, and Being Human. These were supposedly cheaper to make and appealed to a wider audience, but in reality, they ended up pushing a lot of the hardcore sci-fi fans away from the network. There were also rumors that the series might continue somewhere else, away from Sci-Fi, since the network didn't own the Stargate license. The producers even encouraged fans, saying that letters of support were nice, but buying DVDs and downloading episodes would be better. But despite all that effort, it was canceled after 2 seasons. The good news is, with Amazon recently buying MGM Studios, there's a lot of talk about reviving the Stargate franchise. This could open the door for SGU to finally get some kind of ending. It's been years since SGU last aired, so they definitely have to explain why the actors look a bit older. But sci-fi shows are usually good at tackling those kinds of challenges, so that shouldn't stop them. The show's former producers asked fans what they wanted, and a continuation of the existing story, rather than a full reboot, was overwhelmingly the preferred choice. That could start with an SGU movie that finishes that series and brings in characters from the other shows. But honestly, at this point, it would take a huge push from the fans to make it happen. However, now is definitely the right time, with MGM and Amazon thinking about how to move forward with the Stargate property. Both seasons of Stargate Universe have been released on DVD and Blu-ray, and you can easily find those. You can also stream it on Prime Video, and it's included on the Stargate channel over on Pluto TV. Fan division: why the audience was split. From the very beginning, Stargate Universe was a show that split its audience right down the middle. A big reason for this was that it felt different, both in its storytelling and its overall vibe, compared to Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. Longtime fans of the Stargate world usually expected a mix of humor, adventure, and clear-cut heroes doing heroic things. That's what they were used to. But SGU gave them something else entirely. It was darker, grittier, and focused on the characters' personal struggles, almost like the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. Some viewers called this a tone swap, and it definitely pushed away a chunk of the existing fanbase who weren't ready for a Stargate show that felt so different from what they knew. A big point of disagreement was the show's focus on complicated relationships between the characters and the emotional toll of being stuck billions of light years from home. Instead of jumping to a new planet for an adventure every week, many episodes just explored the internal drama. Some people felt there was too much drama and labeled it a soap opera. They also had issues with the huge cast of main characters. With so many different backstories to keep track of, some found it hard to connect with any of them. The cliffhanger and unfinished journey. So where was the story heading when it stopped? The final episode, Gauntlet, aired in 2011, and it was already too late for the creative team to drop clear hints about where the story would go next. The crew had agreed to embark on a massive 3-year journey, traveling through the emptiness between galaxies at faster-than-light speed. This was all to investigate that primordial mystery the ancients had designed the Destiny to find in the first place. To save resources for this long trip, everyone aboard, except for the brilliant Eli Wallace, went into deep sleep stasis. That left Eli alone and awake to guide the crew's plan as the episode and the entire series came to an end. This set up all sorts of questions about where SGU would have gone if it had continued past its second season. Now, that's not to say the writers had no ideas about the story's direction. In fact, they had several. In the years since SGU went off the air, writer and producer Joseph Malazzi has shared many scenarios for how the series could have resolved the Destiny's uncertain fate. He mentioned in a 2022 podcast that at the time, they thought they might get a third and final season. When they produced Gauntlet, they didn't know if they were coming back or not, and sadly, they didn't. To celebrate the series' anniversary, the fan site Gateworld put together a great list of all 6 of Malazzi's hypothetical Season 3 ideas. And, as you'll see, they range from the super logical to the completely out of left field. Legacy and fan retrospectives. Despite being canceled, Stargate Universe has actually seen a remarkable turnaround in how fans and critics view it. While it definitely caused a split when it first aired, many people now see SGU as a genuinely good sci-fi show that was cut off right as it was blooming. This change in opinion is partly thanks to the show being much easier to watch now through streaming and on DVD. Being able to binge watch it really highlights its serialized storytelling and how the characters developed over the long run. The cast often looks back on their time on Stargate Universe and its impact. One of the executive producers frequently shares behind-the-scenes insights, photos, and videos from the making of SGU, as well as SG-1 and Atlantis. These materials show us cool glimpses into filming shuttle crashes, intense firefights, and specific episodes, revealing all the hard work that went into creating the show's visuals. He has openly discussed the detailed 5-season story arc he had planned, expressing his frustration about not getting the chance to finish the story and give fans the closure they deserved. Other behind-the-scenes content, like old cast photos popping up on Reddit, often gives way to discussions about the quality and its untimely end, with many people still wishing it hadn't been canceled and praising actors like Robert Carlyle for their performances. The Destiny ship was built on a huge scale with incredible detail, clearly designed to last for many seasons. Production designer James Robbins even gave tours of the Destiny set, pointing out features like the structural steel supports and versatile environments, showing how much thought went into its potential long life on screen. The impact of SGU's strategy is still discussed today. In actuality, it was ahead of its time, with anti-heroes and a ragtag crew battling for their lives, their own goals, and survival. Marvelous verdict. There you have it, the frustrating and ultimately unfinished story of Stargate Universe. Do you love SGU? Were you one of the original fans who felt a bit left out by the change in tone? Or did you embrace it? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more such content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.